So I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I'm super excited to introduce you to a brand new friend of the show. Hey everybody, Anthony here. Welcome back to another juicy episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. As I just alluded to, we have a brand new friend of the show I'm excited to introduce you to in a sec. I just know this guest is going to be legit. I'm excited for you all just to hear just her story and just some aspects of her perspective that I don't think we've ever really covered on the show before. So it's going to be good. You already know that. If you've been with us for a minute, you know we always strive for that good. So this shouldn't be a surprise to you. But if you're just brand new to the podcast, just checking it out, hello, good to see ya. Before we go hang out with our new friend, our new pal, I just want to just check on you all. I feel like the last couple of episodes we've been running around. We've been just doing a whole bunch of random stuff. I've been yapping, of course. So I just want to take a moment to slow down and just ask, how are you? How's your fall going? We're heading into the big three, right? Like this episode's coming out the day before Halloween. So we got that holiday, and then we got Thanksgiving, and then we got all the holidays that you might celebrate in December, and then New Year's, and all those different things. So I know it can be crazy. It can be chaotic. It can be really easy to lose ourselves, right? And all the to-dos that come with this time of year. So even if it's just in this 1 minute, I just want you to do a little exhale, check on yourself, especially if you are a single mom, single dad listening to the show. This is a lot. There's a lot that comes with this time of year, but just make sure you yourself are doing well. And enjoy. If you're listening to this when it actually comes out, I hope you have a safe and fun Halloween. Send me all those gummy bears. That's my favorite candy. My kids know that. But for you, enjoy some tasty treats. You deserve it. You're hot. You know this. You can splurge a little bit. You can get a little Kit Kat here, a little Reese's there. You're good. Just have fun with you and your kids if you guys have some awesome plans. All right, so I think we're going to get ready to go hang out with our new pal. But before we do, I just want to ask you a few things. First big thing I just want to ask is that maybe you consider subscribing to the podcast, especially if you are new and haven't done so already, just on your favorite podcast hosting platform, YouTube, whatever. Ring the bells, turn on notifications, because we only have 4 episodes left in this season, 2024 season, I think, maybe 5, but I think it's 4. So you're going to want to stick around. We got some cool things coming as we wrap up this season, so you're not going to want to miss any of that stuff. So just make sure you're subscribed, and then you'll never miss an episode in the future. Also, if you'd be so kind, maybe consider sharing the podcast. Share the podcast with the neighbor, with the family member, with a trick-or-treater who comes knocking on your door. Maybe you ran out of candy. I've just been seeing pictures online of how expensive candy's gotten lately, like those big packs of the good stuff, not like the cheap dentist office bowl receptionist stuff with the Smarties and all the cheap stuff. I'm talking about the good name brand stuff. That stuff's pricey. It's crazy. Maybe you just can't afford it. You can't do it. So a good treat that you could hand out to your neighbors and their kids, I'm sure they would appreciate this, is let them know about the podcast, spread the podcast around, make little paper strips of the podcast's link, and just hand out those strips, and they can go type it in their phone later. I'm sure the kids would love that. Guaranteed. But just spread the podcast around so we bring in more voices to the show, much like our new friend we're going to go hang out with here in a second. And that just helps us to build a community, and it just helps to spread the podcast around and around and around. And then last but not least, only do this if you think it's worthy, but maybe consider rating the podcast 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite platform. That way it tells the algorithms out there that the show is legit and it wants to pass it along to more people. All right, I think that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to me again, but this time I'll be joined with our brand new friend of the show, Danielle. All right, everybody. So here I am, joined by a very special guest. People, give it up for our new friend of the show, Danielle. Woo! Yeah, I wish I should. Shoot, I should have had like one of those cheap podcast audio cues ready to go. Of like I guess I could do it in post. Maybe if I'm not lazy, I'll add like an audience going, woo! There you go.
Well, that was so appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, of course. We got to give you your props, got to give you your flowers, because I'm just super excited that you've just made time to join me this week and be on the show. Like, that really does mean a lot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I got the kids tucked away, so this is my
Nice.
mama time, and I do not mind talking
Oh.
to you and just hashing it out about, what single motherhood looks like.
Well, I mean, you're on a good show to do that. I'm glad you don't you're not shy to talk about that, because that's kind of our whole thing. So yeah, I think that, well, ultimately, okay, so the people, they've heard me yap in the introduction of this episode. They get me. So I think I just want to give you the floor just to share your story. Let us get to know you a little bit. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, your life as a single mom. Just give us like if this was college, the entry level 101 class that is Danielle.
Perfect. Welcome to class, y'all. I am your instructor, Danielle. So just a little bit about me is I became a single mother in 2021. I have two boys who definitely keep me on my toes, but thankfully no ER visits yet, so let's knock on wood on that. And I've just been navigating this life like alone and what that looks like. And so I've been on a journey of just like learning about myself, learning to love myself again, almost having a carefree, like this is me attitude. Hence the reason I started my TikTok account, which is how we stumbled upon each other. And I'm engaged in therapy, and I'm just navigating the growth of my kids while also growing as a human myself. Okay. And the journey is bumpy and crazy, but it's also just like so beautiful to watch the progress of like where I started to like where I am right now in life.
Definitely. And you said it's been like a few years since you've been divorced?
Yep. So I got married in 2017.
Okay.
We split in 2020. So in the state of North Carolina, there is a law that when you split, you have to be separated for a year before your divorce can be finalized. So we split in 2020, about the summer of 2020, and our divorce was finalized the fall of 2021. Okay. And so it's been about 3 years of officially being divorced, 4 years separated in total.
Mm-hmm. So that's not a short amount of time. Like for some people, they might say like, oh, that's not that long. But for others, like 3-4 years, that's not a small amount of time. So for you to be now a single mother for going on 4, soon to be 5 years now, what would you say is the biggest thing or things that you've just come to like learn about yourself as like your own person? You are Danielle. What have you learned about yourself?
Oh man, I have learned, and I think I knew deep down, that I am just so outgoing and so funny, especially when I'm around like the right crowd that like know me like deep down and aren't like ashamed of me. Like I really come out of my shell. I will be dancing. I will be causing a scene. Like I love to laugh. And when I laugh, it's very loud. I call it my cackle. But I have a heart for like living a playful, fun energy life. And I think for a long time, I just was filled with so much anxiety, and I felt like I was walking on eggshells, and I just did not feel me. Okay. And now I feel like I've been able to like unmask myself and really embrace the outgoing, the fun, the silly, playful, loud Danielle, and not be ashamed that that is actually like who I am.
That's huge. That's awesome. I guess like a question for you in light of all
Yeah,
that then that I think is honestly going to help me out a lot because
sure.
one thing I'm really still working on is balancing being the only adult in my house with my two girls, two kids, and all the crazy and stress and chaos that comes with that versus also, like you were saying, still having fun and being silly and goofy and enjoying life because sometimes I find myself so like tense and on a schedule and we got to do ABCD that I look back at the end of the day after my girls have gone to bed and been like, oh, like we had opportunities to be spontaneous and to laugh or to do all these things, but I was so like in my head, I feel like I missed some moments. So like for you, again, I think this is gonna help me a lot. How do you
Yeah.
balance the fact that hey, sometimes life can be tough, especially as a single parent, but at the same time, you seems like you still find a lot of joy and fun in your life. What does that look like for you?
So I want to just acknowledge the feelings that you feel. I also feel. I think that's what
Okay.
most parents feel is that guilt of
Yeah.
like, man, did I even give my kids like hugs today? Did I tell
Yeah.
them I love them enough? Like, did I even take a second to like break away from the structure? So I
Mm.
do want to just tell you to give yourself grace, which I know is so much easier said than done.
Sure.
But just
Yeah.
know that like, although I am like fun and I like to ensure that my kids and I are taking like spontaneous time to do fun things, I also too struggle with that. And
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that's probably super common for like most single parents.
Mm.
But what I try to remind myself is I'm responsible for my kids' childhood. And I just remember growing up, and there's nothing against my parents. They did
Okay.
their best. They were children when they were raising me, and they were doing the best they could. But I remember times where I just like wanted to go run in the rain. I wanted to splash in puddles. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do those fun, like kid like activities. And so I make time. Like, are my kids about to be dirty? Yes. Does that really grind my gears? 100%. Do I want that water trekked through my house? No. But every time I've taken my kids out to like run in the rain or jump in puddles, we end up laughing and we're creating memories.
Yeah.
And I just remind myself so often that I'm responsible for my kids' childhood, but also there's still a little kid in me too.
Oh, that's good.
And I want to cater to her as well. She wants to go jump and run in puddles too.
Mm-hmm.
So I take a moment to think about that when I'm like on the verge of like, do we stay structured? Do we like
Right.
stick with the plan? Because my type A self, that's what I want to do. Like that's
Yes.
what I need.
Yep.
But what my kids need is, Mom, you know what? Let's go get ice cream for dinner instead. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's go be a little carefree and get off the structure just for a instant, and it's
Yeah.
just to make memories. Like it's for the memories.
That's awesome. I guess I'm super thankful you shared that because I don't think I've ever really thought about it from the perspective of like myself. Like I'm
Yeah.
always obviously thinking about like my kids and how to be
Yeah.
like intentional like that for my kids, but I never thought about the fact that as a person, even though I'm, in my 30s, I still have that young Anthony living inside of
Yeah.
me who does enjoy that thing. And I know that because like when I'm like out with my friends or if I'm just hanging out at home by myself and my girls are with their mom, I
Mhm.
do get silly and goofy and crazy like that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I guess I compartmentalize. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I
Yeah.
get it
That
right?
works. I
Okay.
think you
Okay.
did.
I don't. Okay. All right. We're gonna pretend I got that clean the first time. But hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. But I do that word. I'm not going to try to say it again. I when it comes to that mentality of having to be always structured, intense, and sticking to a schedule versus letting myself just be spontaneous and fun like that. And so I just appreciate you saying all that, because again, I've never seen it from the perspective of myself. And I think
Right.
that that's why I appreciate these type of conversations, and really just the journey that a lot of us single parents are on, because I know that a big part of these journeys is working through a lot of that self-discovery, and not even just figuring out like who we are as people no longer married, but who we are as people like in general, right?
100%. Without a doubt. I mean, like, going through the divorce is really what triggered me to start learning about myself,
Okay.
but not just from my marriage, like what happened in my marriage and on, but I'm going back to my childhood. Like, I am really diving deep and like really finding the root of, what made me who I am today. And it's crazy how much your childhood really plays a factor into like who you are as an adult. And so with therapy, which I'm currently in,
Nice.
let's normalize therapy.
Yes. Amen.
Amen, hallelujah.
That's
My
right.
therapist, I have her on standby, and I'm like, I need you ASAP, and she's phenomenal.
That's
So,
awesome.
but through therapy, I've realized, some of my like anxiety or some of the things that I dealt with as a child was actually more like ADHD. Like, I'm figuring out so much about myself that I was just like, oh, I was just like an anxious, shy, like socially weird kid. No, actually, I was probably struggling with X, Y, and Z, and that's why I am the way I am. So it's really helped the puzzle piece, like putting the puzzle pieces together as to like who I am. And I know not everyone can afford therapy, so I know that's tough, but I know that there's like resources out there.
Right.
There's free webinars. There's ways to get connected. There's small groups at church. We're all about the Lord here. But there's ways to go about like really advocating and learning about yourself.
Definitely. That's very cool. That's very cool. Well, one thing that we were kind of talking about when it comes to, I guess this is on track of like learning about yourself, is learning about how you navigate like the practical side of life, the stuff that we all still have to do as adults. And one of those practical things we all have to do, whether we want to or not, especially when we're single and there's not like dual income coming into the household, is work. So we were talking as we were prepping for this podcast, and you were sharing some of your story with me, and some of that big part of that story involved a time where you weren't working because you did have that spouse who was out bringing home that income, to where now you are a working mama and you're out kicking butt. And what do you sell stocks, or you're like a day trader or a crypto girl? Like, you work at like Wall Street, right? Isn't that where you work?
I work at a law firm. Close enough. I mean, you were this close.
Oh wait,
but
sorry, is that seriously where you work? You work at a law firm?
I do. I work at a law firm.
I guess it was kind of close. I just guessed
it was, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just like a little person in the law firm, but still, I mean, I feel special, and I get to work from home, which is like even more of a blessing. But yeah, so when I was married, my ex-husband and I agreed that, the cost of daycare is just astronomical. And it made more sense that I stay home with our kids versus work. And so, of course, when our marriage ended, I was left like, oh crap, like I have to go back to work. Now, my degree is in recreational therapy. And to be a recreational therapist, you need a license and certification. And unfortunately, being a stay-at-home mom, I didn't need to like take continuing educations to uphold my certification because I wasn't working. And so I unfortunately lost my license. I lost my certification, and I was left with like, what do I do? Like, I've been out of work for about 2 years. I have no idea who's going to hire me. And we're right in COVID. So this is 2020. COVID's hitting, I'm like, who's even going to be hiring? We're stuck at home with masks. Like, it was a very anxious time in my life for that reason, but also for the reason of my kids now have to go to daycare.
Right.
And now my kids have to be watched by somebody else. When they got to be around their mom 24/7, they were watched, they were loved, they were cared for. And with my postpartum anxiety, all I do is worry about my kids and the thought of them like having to go to a daycare. And unfortunately, it's all over the news when things happen. You know, it's a scary world. And so my fear was just something was going to happen to my kids and I couldn't protect them. And that was a debilitating feeling. Thankfully, after lots of research, lots of looking around, we did find a daycare who, just rest assured, all of our nerves, took our kids in during COVID, loved on them, maintained, the premises properly, and cared for our boys, like, exceptionally, which made returning to work a little bit better.
Okay.
When I finally received like a job offer, it was at a pediatric therapy center. I don't think I realized just how much I needed to return back to work.
Oh, okay.
For me, and it was something my ex-husband even, brought to my attention that maybe I should return back to work. But again, that fear of my kids, somebody else watching that, I was like, I can't. Like, that can never happen. Like, my kids will be in my care for as long as they can. But honestly, returning back to work, I found myself, that was really like the first step of learning, like, who is Danielle again? Like, oh, she is more than just a mother. Interesting. I got to have like socialization with adults. It made me feel really important to have this job under my belt other than caring for my children, which will always be my favorite job of all.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's more to me. I'm really good at being in a like leadership role, which I would have never assumed that. And so I just began really learning about myself and thriving being back at work. Nice. Because not only did it give me a break from the title of mother, but it also really filled my cup and helped me see that I'm smart, that I'm hardworking, that I'm a really good teammate. It was a small confidence boost for me.
That's huge. That's really, really good. So I guess to follow up with that, what would you say? Because one thing I've already noticed about you is that you're a great encourager. Like, I already, like, 3 or 4 times talking with you, I'm already like, yeah, Anthony, you are pretty cool, just by talking to you. So thank you for just sharing your gift with us, because you're really great at that. So that fact combined with everything you just said, what would you say to maybe it's a mother who recently just became a single mother, or steps are moving forward and she's going to be a single mom soon, because maybe she's in the very early process of divorce or separation, and she's already feeling a lot of that fear, guilt, shame, thinking about the reality that, okay, the writing's on the wall, I'm not going to be with my husband anymore, and I got to go back to work, and she's feeling those emotions. You were sitting down to coffee with that mom. What would be some things that you would share with her to encourage her a little bit?
Oh, goodness. You're going to get me emotional thinking of that.
Okay.
I mean, of course, I would just like want to hug on them, but this isn't going to kill you.
Okay.
I remember thinking, how is this my life? What happened? What did I do to deserve? All the questions start going through your head of like how we got here. And in the end, it's gonna be okay. It may not feel okay right now, and that's fine. And if you need to cry, that's okay. I actually encourage you to grieve, to
Yeah.
cry, to properly mourn what was gonna be. It's important for you to grieve what you thought your life was gonna look like. I think it's healthy to do that so that way you can kind of close that door, don't look back anymore, and move forward to living a life where you get to learn about yourself, love yourself, and put your child first. That's all that matters in this moment. Grieve, collect yourself, and then push forward. And you have to keep pushing. As a single parent, there is no option to not fight and to not push yourself and to not take care of yourself. And so I know you have the fight in you to do that. I think that's what I would say.
That's amazing. Dang, that's so good. I appreciate your words. Seriously, I know, like I said, I've been encouraged by them so far on the show, and I just can only imagine how many people out there need to hear that, because it is scary, and it can feel lonely, and it can feel like we're the only people in the world who are going through something like this. Because you look on like social media, and everybody's life is perfect and glamorous and happy, and then here some of us are, seems like things are falling apart. But to hear from people who've been through it, are still going through it, but maybe like in your case, a few years removed from being at the start of it, to hear that, hey, like, you're not alone. I know what it feels like because I went through it, still going through it. And so I really do appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Next big question I have for you, though, is our theme for the season of the show, fall 2024, is why not? So we're, like I say, in our why not era of the show. We're talking about what does it look like as single parents to still try the things we want to try, maybe do some things we've always wanted to do, say some things we've always needed to say. Just say, hey, like, why not? I'm going for it. Just because I'm a single mom, single dad, doesn't mean I can't stop just giving things a go. So for you, has there been anything recently or that comes to mind that you can share that you've said, you know what, why not? And you went for it, that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a bit, honestly.
Okay.
You know, the biggest thing for me is my TikTok. Not that that's like super big or anything, but I started it just to keep me busy during COVID, just to entertain myself, truly just for pure enjoyment. And it's led up to a following. My content is very much like about me, about being a single mother, about dating in this generation. Insert eye roll.
Oh, seriously. Another amen to that.
It won't be like this for forever, right?
I hope not. I was about to ask you for reassurance on that one.
Well, you know what? God's got a plan, so we'll just give it to him.
There you go.
But so just my like content creation, I didn't really know how creative I could be. Again, I go back to that very type A personality, and type A's are not known for being like able to be creative, but I found a creative outlet on TikTok that I've actually thoroughly been enjoying. So that's been like my biggest, like, go for it. Who cares what anyone thinks? Like, I'm just truly embracing like the whole, this is me. I'm going to put it out there, and those that like it, I love y'all. And those that don't, like, that's okay. And I'm learning to be okay that not everyone's gonna drink from a cup of tea. You know what I mean?
Definitely. That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, and it's been good so far. Like, you're actually like truly like enjoy doing it, because I know it can be intimidating, especially when you do develop a following. Intimidating putting yourself out there like that. But for you, it really has brought you some joy.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason why, like, I know on TikTok you can make money. That's not my goal. Like, I've put I don't have a desire. I used to go live every
Okay.
night and do a Bible study, and that's when I felt burnout. It felt like it felt like it became a job. And
Mhm.
so that's when I had to like really reevaluate, okay, this is actually not bringing me joy. Making videos and making the content, that's where my joy lies.
Okay.
That's where my joy lies. So that's what I'm going to continue on. So I had to completely stop going live. And although it was to bring like glory to God,
Mm-hmm.
it was depleting myself. And at the end
Right.
of the day, I have to take care of myself. That's what God would want me to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, just making the content, yes, that is where I get like my true joy. My bubbly personality gets to come out. I get to be silly and funny, but I also get to have like serious conversations. And it's just so nice to connect with so many different people all over the world through one app.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Very, very cool. Yeah. So, people, if you haven't already, go and follow Danielle on TikTok. Do you know your handle off your top of your head?
Ooh, I should.
I asked because I don't even remember mine. I think it's something single parents podcast. But anyways, we're gonna link it in the description of the video anyways. So all you have to do is just scroll down a little bit if you're watch or listening to this or watching this on your favorite podcast hosting platform. It'll be down there. Go click and give her a follow because yeah, your videos they're very, very good. I like your dancing ones. Those are my favorite. I went and like did like a binge watch, I guess you could say, of like all your
Yeah.
videos, and you're a good better dancer than me. I'll just say that.
Thank you. Little white girl got some moves. She can bust it down.
You do, yeah. You got some moves. You got some moves. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Thanks.
start. I need to take some notes, and because my girls, they're big, big dancers, and so
Are they?
speaking of like being silly and goofy, like they'll like dance like all the time, and but they'll make me like watch and be the audience. And then there'll be
Yes.
times though when the song that they're dancing to like hit that beat just hits, and I'm like, wait, I want to get up and I want to shake my thing, and they're just like, Dad, no, sit back down, just sit back down. And I'm like,
They
oh,
put you
okay.
right back in your place.
Yeah,
No
they're like,
judge, sit
nah,
down.
dude. They're like, no, dude. I'm like, okay. The one time I want to be silly and goofy, you guys shut me down. They're like, cringe, Dad. You're cringe. I'm like, okay.
How old are they?
It's 9 and soon to be 8 next month. 8 and 9.
Yeah, I feel like they're getting into that age where like
Oh yeah.
maybe when they're younger, so mine are 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
They still love when mom gets up and dances and is all crazy. But I'm
Yeah.
sure as they get older, they start to like slowly transition into that
Oh yeah.
dad, mom, like pipe down a little bit, like you're not that cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So I feel like you're right in that space with them.
I think my life just has turned into like them going off and them being like cool and fun and popular with all their friends because everywhere they go they run into some friend and they're just like, all right, Dad, well, we're gonna go hang out with our friends, you can kind of just sit there until we're ready to go. And I'm like, okay, well, do you want me to come? They're like, no, it's fine, we'll come back when you're, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just read a book or something. And
Oh man,
that's
that's
my
gotta
life.
be a transition.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's I don't know, but then there's times though where like for example, I just had my kids with me because I do like week on week off shared custody thing with
Yeah.
their mom. But she went on vacation recently, so I had them longer than normal, and
Okay.
I wasn't crazy. It was just us figuring out day by day how to just work together as a team to do the things we need to do and not get too stressed out and too chaotic with each other. But
Right.
yesterday, my younger daughter, Maddox, she just randomly like came up and just gave me a hug, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
what's up?" And she's just like, "Oh, thank you, Dad." I'm like, "For what?" I wasn't doing it. I was just walking, and she just like looked up at me and she's like, "Well, thank you for everything." And that like really
oh,
hits because she like her bigger sister, my 9-year-old Ev, she's like more emotional and she will come up and say stuff like that and like want to cuddle and hang out. But my younger daughter, she doesn't like getting emotional. She doesn't like that mushy stuff, so she doesn't like really like open up like that. So for her
Right.
to like just out of nowhere give me a hug and just say thank you for everything meant a
Oh,
lot, because even though they might be getting older and their like needs and their desires and their personalities might be growing and changing, like it meant a lot, the
yeah.
fact that in their own ways they still see me and appreciate me, and we're
Hmm.
just doing the best I can. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's gotta warm your heart. I mean, that's gotta be motivation right there to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, exactly. Especially after, because again, I had them for basically almost 2 weeks, and there's times within that 2 week period where I would get tired and feel overwhelmed and all these things, and have just to like go in my room and be like, Dad just needs like 10 minutes, so let me just go take a breather for 10 minutes.
Yep.
And I, of course, only focus on that those negative aspects where I think I'm failing and not like doing the greatest of jobs. So they're great at reminding me of the fact that like, what are you talking about, Dad? Like, you're awesome. Like, we love you. We appreciate you.
Uh,
And all these different things. And so no, they're good encouragers. They're not afraid to call out my cringe, but they're good encouragers.
well, let me also encourage you. I mean, the fact that you know to separate yourself and give yourself a
Oh
couple
yeah.
minutes to regulate yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that right there, you're a good dad.
Oh,
You're a
thanks.
great dad. So good job for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. We were driving and something came up, something about like how people deal with anger or stress or something like that. And I was just like, oh yeah, like I know I don't deal with stress the best. I get angry and or grumpy and all this stuff. And they just like looked at me and they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, yeah, I get like stressed out all the time. They're like, no, not really. Like when you do, you just go. They said you just go, and then you go in your room for a few minutes, and then that's it. And I'm like, oh, I guess that is what I do. But again, in my head, I feel like I'm always like the grumpiest old man dad of all time. But they're just like, you just do an annoying sigh, and then you walk away for 10 minutes, and then you come back and you're good. So yeah, I know. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I love how they had to acknowledge that it's an annoying sigh.
That is, yeah, again, they're not afraid to call it out. They're like, you don't get mad, you just do this really annoying sigh that you think that we can't hear. Because like I guess I think I'm doing it to myself, but they're like, no, we know every
Yeah.
time you do it what that means.
Oh man, way to
Yeah.
stay humble. Keep it
Yeah, yeah,
humble.
yeah. They're good at that. They're good at that. But speaking of my girls,
Yeah.
question for you before we kind of get to our final question. So,
Let's hear.
you're into volleyball. I don't know if we actually said that on the podcast or if we were talking about that before, but I don't just for the sake of I don't think we actually said this on the show. You're a volleyball player, right?
Yep, I've been playing volleyball since I was 12 and
Wow.
was actually told in high school that I would never be good enough to play in college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and ended up with a college volleyball scholarship. So,
Oh,
I played I played at the D2 level for 4 years,
nice.
and it was the best 4 years of my life.
Dang. Okay. So so you're good because you're gonna know what you're talking about when I ask this. So
Let's hope.
my girls right now they're in gymnastics, like that's their big thing.
Okay.
But we're coming
Mhm.
to the end of the year, so I was just asking them like, do you want to like continue on with gymnastics next year, or do you want to do dance or whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And Maddie, my younger daughter, she said she's thinking about getting into volleyball, and I didn't even know she really knew much about volleyball, let alone like
Yeah.
liked it enough to want to do it. So I was like, oh, okay. So like, I need just some quick tips as to like what I need to know if I'm going to become a volleyball dad soon, because it might happen.
Okay. Well, quick tips. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, mm, as a volleyball dad or a volleyball player?
Well, what does the life of a volleyball player look like, and what should I prepare for? Because I know nothing about volleyball except I've seen it on the Olympics a couple of times, but other than that, I don't know very much.
Just know
Uh oh.
if she gets into volleyball,
Okay.
you better be cheering as loud as you can for her. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure you are already as a father,
Yeah.
but l- volleyball is truly, some of it is actually being able to like physically play the sport, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but a big part of it is the mentality. And so helping your daughter to be mentally tough
Okay.
is probably going to help her so much because although volleyball is very much like a team based sport,
Mm-hmm.
like in order to get a point, you have to pass the ball to the setter has to set the ball, and then a hitter hits the ball over. So it takes a team, but individually, if you mess up, I know that that can truly make or break someone mentally, as someone who has been there before. So,
Sure.
what you can do to help your daughter is just be mentally tough and
Okay.
secure in who she is as a
Mm-hmm.
player. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And help her learn to be just like a team player. Cheer on your teammates, whether
Okay.
you're on or off the court, because that goes a long way in a coach's eyes.
Good stuff. Okay, I could do all that. That sounds like it'd be right up my wheelhouse. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna
Beautiful.
definitely be picking your brain more as if she actually wants to get into volleyball because
Come on.
I had no idea she even like knew much about it. So I was like, okay, that's cool.
Go ahead
That's
and fly me out. I'll give her some lessons.
Whoa, okay, that would be dope. Let's go, and then we could podcast together in person.
I was just going to say, fly me out. I'll give her lessons and then I'll podcast with you.
Perfect. All right. We have a plan, people. We have a plan. It's going to happen. I think that's another reason to subscribe to the podcast then, because we're gonna make that in-person show happen, and then we'll keep you guys updated about my daughter's volleyball career. Maybe you'll see her in a future Olympics games. That would be pretty cool. Maybe.
That would be
We'll
so
see.
incredible.
That would be pretty cool. Well, Danielle, is it all right if we have you stick around for one more question before we let you go?
Of course.
All right, perfect. Well, let's do it. All right, well, everybody, this is the part of the show we like to call Deeply Single. We're at the end of the episode, or as you can say, the deep end of the episode. So if you stuck around this far, then thank you. We appreciate it. But as we're in the deep end of the episode, we just like to wrap things up by maybe giving you all something to think about before you head back through and do all the things you got to do for the rest of the week. Maybe something to be encouraged by. We just want to give you a little something to walk away with. But as we have an amazing guest here, I just asked her to maybe share some things that have really spoken to her lately that she wants to pass along to you all. So, Danielle, what you got for us?
So, my biggest thing is I was a stay-at-home mom to my two kids. And so, going from having my kids 24/7 to splitting custody 50-50, doing a week on, week off schedule was debilitating at times. To be without my children, I had no idea what to do with myself. All I did was like miss my kids. I wanted to FaceTime them every day. I know I was bothering my ex-husband with FaceTime calls. And so I took the time to shift my thought from woe is me, I miss my kids, I'm going to sit here and be depressed and do nothing, to more so like my kids get some quality time with their dad. They're going to make memories with him. They're spending time with him. And I now get to fill my cup up. So what can I do during this week to fill my cup up so when I get my kids back, I am the best, healthiest, happiest version of myself. So that way then I can create memories with my kids. And so I've really just focused on that mind shift. And I feel like a lot of moms, I shouldn't even just say moms, a lot of single parents in general mourn not having their kids and they almost don't know what to do with themselves. And so I just want to encourage you to shift your mindset from focusing on you to focusing on the fact that your kids are getting good quality time with the other parent who is very much deserving of that. And take the time to really love on yourself when you don't have your kids. Fill your cup up, whether that's watching TV, getting to the gym, going and having a spa day, whatever that looks like, do it. So that way when you get your kids back, you can fully embrace them, your happiest, healthiest self.
That's good. That's amazing. That's good. Have you ever, I promise I have a point to this question. Have you ever been
Yeah,
on a cruise before?
I have when I was like
Okay.
12.
Okay. Did you like it?
Loved,
Okay.
loved it.
Okay. Okay. I asked because that's been something that's been on my bucket list for a long, long time. My family,
Ooh.
they go on. I feel like they go on one like every other week. My parents and my siblings, like they're cruise fanatics, but I've never been on one before. So my family's planning on going on one in March, and they were just talking to me about coming with them. And I ultimately, when I was thinking about it, kind of wrestled with the idea because number one, I would just go on a week where my girls were at their mom's house, and it would just be like a adult me vacation. And then also
Yeah,
like financially, I could justify spending the money. I'd go on a cruise on a million other things that maybe involve the girls and what have you. But I was talking
right.
to one of my homies last night about it, and we were just talking about the fact that, you know what, even though I might wrestle with guilt about the idea of going on a little vacation for myself, like ultimately that is what's going to fill me up as a person, as Anthony, to
Yes.
continue pouring into my girls and being the best dad possible. So it's funny that that's the thing that you're encouraging with us, because I was literally just talking to a friend about that, and how like even just doing stuff like you said, if it's watching TV or going on like trips, even if it's just for us, it's not just for us, because it ultimately helps us be better parents in the long run, because we're not burnt out and crazy. And then, like you said, they're with their other parent, and as long as their other parent is, safe and not violent or crazy or anything like that, then they're still
Yeah.
being loved and cared for. And so I appreciate, again, I said this like 50 times the show, but I appreciate those words, because that's just a practical example in my own life of how I want to apply that in 2025. And I was literally just thinking about that. So thank you.
Maybe that's the reason for this. Maybe I was brought to you to
Hmm.
encourage you to fill your cup up and try to ease
Yeah.
yourself of
Yeah.
that guilt you.
Hmm. I think you're right. I think you're right. So yeah, we probably don't even need to post this podcast, because this podcast is not for people. This podcast is just for me. I'm just going to keep this recording on my own personal computer and just watch it all over. So just kidding.
Oh, you're a hoot.
No, that's really good. I do appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
of
anything
course.
else that you'd want to share or say before we let you go?
No, just, keep on keeping on. I know at times it may feel lonely,
Hmm.
but you're never truly alone. You have this podcast.
You have this podcast, exactly. So we thank you all for being a part of this podcast, for listening. If you want to stay a part of the podcast, just once again, maybe consider subscribing, turning on automatic downloads, and you'll just be a part of the community going forward. That'd be great. But if you want to voice your thoughts, your perspectives, maybe you want to share your story with us, then just follow us, do the socials, DMs there. But the email is just at singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. So you can shoot me a message there. Like I said, we're going to tag all of Danielle's stuff in the description of the video. So we'll put TikTok. Do you want your Instagram? Do you want your home address? Do you want your social security number down there so the people can really get a hold of you?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and give it all in
Yeah, why
this
not?
right
Why not? We're going to make her all super accessible, people. She's going to be at your beck and call 24/7 now.
I'll
But no,
make home
seriously.
calls.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Just hit her up. Just like she'll just be like she does to her therapist. You could be the therapist of the show. There you go. That's your title now.
Oh gosh, you're
uh,
too fun.
but no, people, seriously, go follow her. We definitely appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, you'll want to come on again sometime. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, in person. We've
In
already
person,
discussed this.
exactly. Oh yeah, we already talked about this. We have a goal now, so it's gonna happen.
Great.
So that's coming soon. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, well, with that, I think that's gonna get ready to wrap it up for another episode of the Single Parents Podcast. My name's Anthony. Thank you again to our guest Danielle for joining us. you all out there, we appreciate you. We love you. We see you. And until next time, you just stay beautiful. Bye.